Audiobook presents Hype Machine: How Greed, Fraud, and Free Money Crashed Crypto. Written by Joshua Oliver and read by Sebastian Brown. Introduction and note on sources read by the author. The media requires there be a new genius every season. Fran Lebowitz. The purpose of democracy is to keep capitalism from destroying society. Michael Ignatieff. Preface. Sam Bankman-Fried edged through the side door of courtroom 26A. His eyes darted around the large, dark-paneled room, seeking a friendly face in the crowd of strangers. He spotted his lawyers and moved urgently the few feet across to the defense table, where he slumped into a chair. His suit jacket, which looked 2 sizes too big, hunched up towards his ears. It was hard to believe that this young man, who looked very much as if he'd borrowed his father's suit for Take Your Kid to Work Day, was once the head of the most successful tech startup in the world, or that he was now facing the first day of his trial on charges that he orchestrated one of the largest financial frauds in American history. The list of people who Bankman-Fried has been compared to is long and extraordinary. In 3 years of relentless public attention, as he became the responsible face of the cryptocurrency world, and then its arch-villain, he had been variously likened to Jay Gatsby, Albert Einstein, John Pierpont Morgan, Frodo Baggins, Michael Jordan, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, Bernie Madoff, and Charles Ponzi. Bankman-Fried looked like he had lost 20 or 30 pounds in the 8 weeks he had spent in Brooklyn's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center. He had refused to break his vegan diet and subsisted partly on peanut butter donated by sympathetic fellow inmates. Another prisoner had cut his hair for the trial. The frizzy mane that had defined Bankman-Fried's image as a celebrity CEO was pared back to a fluffy crop. He looked in every way deflated. I had last seen Bankman-Fried in person at his parents' house in Palo Alto 8 months earlier. He had still been his irrepressible self, frizzy-haired and slightly portly. He had fidgeted through our hours-long conversation, playing computer games or checking baseball scores on his laptop as we spoke, and toying with the chunky black ankle bracelet he wore at the time as a condition of his bail. His pretrial freedom was revoked mostly because he could not stop himself from speaking to journalists like me. Even though he was now not getting full doses of his ADHD medication, his fidgeting had stopped. The strangest thing about seeing Bankman-Fried in the courtroom was that he was finally sitting still. The pale, shrunken Bankman-Fried sitting between his broad-backed lawyers seemed very unlike the person I had known as SBF, an oddball CEO whose grand moral vision clashed with the lavish parts of his lifestyle and the grubby way he earned his money. He had been a fascinating subject whose social awkwardness had made him utterly improbable casting for a globe-trotting celebrity businessman. Whether he was on a private jet from his home in the Bahamas to New York, or sitting on stage with Bill Clinton, SBF, if he could help it, never wore anything more formal than shorts and a company-branded t-shirt. Now he had asked the judge for permission to appear in a suit, rather than a prison jumpsuit. The court order, which allowed for 4 pairs of socks and appropriate undergarments, was a barely noticed indignity compared to what was at stake when he finally entered the courtroom. In court, Bankman-Fried was 2 people. His defense lawyers always called him Sam. To them, he was one of the great genius entrepreneurs of the millennial generation. He was a profoundly awkward young man. SBF once described how he had not quite cracked the art of smiling and other facial expressions of emotion until he was a few years out of college, working as a trader at the elite financial firm Jane Street. It felt unnatural, and I wasn't good at it. It didn't look right, he said. But in spite of these challenges, he had built 2 multi-billion-dollar companies, a trading firm called Alameda Research and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?